They said working nights here would be quiet, just a mop and the ocean breeze. They didn't mention roommate. The ocean sang a low, endless hum as I pulled my rusted Civic into the cracked parking lot of the Seaside Motel. Waves rolled in steady rhythm, crashing just beyond the dune fence that lined the back of the property. The neon sign blinked vacancy in a sluggish pulse, each flicker like a heartbeat too weak to keep going. This was where I'd spend my nights now. The manager, Tom, was already waiting outside, sipping burnt coffee from a stained paper cup. His sun-damaged skin and yellowed teeth told me he'd been here too long, too deep in whatever this place was. He didn't shake my hand, didn't smile. "You the new night janitor?" he asked, eyes narrowing like he was squinting in a fog that wasn't there. "Yeah, I'm Ethan. We spoke on the phone." He grunted and gestured toward the office. "Paperwork's inside. I'll give you the keys and the rules." Something about the way he said rules made my stomach clench. I followed him in. The lobby was lifeless. Pale seafoam green walls, a cracked leather couch, and a mounted swordfish whose eye had long since turned gray. Everything smelled like mildew and forgotten guests. He handed me a set of keys, some metal, some plastic, and a laminated sheet of paper with a list typed in bold. Night shift rules, Seaside Motel. 1. Clean the pool deck by 10 p.m. Avoid eye contact with reflections in the windows. 2. Do not knock on room 3. Even if they call for towels, ignore it. 3. Room 5 leaks water from the ceiling. Don't look up while cleaning it. 4. The ice machine hums. If it starts talking, leave the laundry room immediately. 5. Never enter roommate. Do not speak of it. Do not answer knocks from it. 6. Always finish by 3:33 a.m. No exceptions. I scanned it once. Then again. This some kind of joke? I asked, letting out a nervous laugh. Tom didn't laugh back. "You'll take it seriously if you want to keep breathing," he said flatly. "Now, here's the master key. It won't work on roommate. It used to, but not anymore." My throat dried up. The air felt heavy, like the salt in it had weight. "You're messing with me," I muttered. He leaned in close, the stale coffee stink clinging to every word. I wish I was. I started that night at 9:45 p.m., mopping the tile around the pool, the sky deep and starless above. The air was sharp, the sea breeze spitting cold foam over the fence. I kept glancing at the windows of the guest rooms, especially the ones on the second floor. Rule number 1 clawed at my mind. The reflections, they weren't right. As I passed room 2's sliding glass door, I noticed my reflection, only it wasn't in sync. It moved just a second too slow. It grinned when I didn't. I blinked, and it was normal again. I kept walking. By 10:30 p.m., I was in the laundry room behind the lobby, folding old towels with frayed edges. The ice machine in the corner hummed its usual drone, like an overworked generator. I didn't mind the noise. It drowned out the wind. Then it changed. The hum stretched, slowed, became deeper. It morphed into something that sounded too much like a voice buried beneath static. A whisper in a language I didn't know. I froze. The rules slammed into my brain. If it starts talking, I dropped the towels and bolted out. Back in the hallway, I took deep breaths. The hum returned to normal. Just a machine again. I shook off the fear. Just nerves, I told myself. I was alone in a weird place at night. Everything feels off in places like this. Still, I skipped room 3. And when I got to room 5, I cleaned without ever looking up. Around 1:50 a.m., I sat in the utility closet with my feet up, snacking on a vending machine protein bar. My phone had no signal, which didn't surprise me. The motel sat at the edge of a town, already dying. Everything about this place was built to be forgotten. Then came a knock. 3 slow, deliberate knocks echoed through the hallway. I stood, listened. Silence. Another 3 knocks. Louder. I stepped out and followed the sound. It was coming from room 8. I shouldn't have gone closer, but something drew me. Something primal, curious, and stupid. I stopped in front of the door. The number 8 was a faded brass plaque, tarnished. The paint on the door frame peeled like sunburned skin. The peephole was stuffed with black tape. I waited. No more knocks. Just the sound of waves and my own breath. Then a whisper. "Ethan." I staggered back. No one should know my name. The voice was soft, female. It came from inside the room, not muffled through wood, but like it had grown into the air itself. "Help me," it said. I stared. My hearing trembled in my grip. I checked it for the master. I almost tried it, but I remembered Tom's warning. It won't work on room 8. Not anymore. The doorknob turned on its own. Stopped. Something scratched from the other side. Fingernails, maybe, or something sharper. I backed away. All down the hallway. Every other room was silent. The blinds closed tight. Then every light in the hallway went out. Pitch black. I ran. I burst into the office at 2:10 a.m., slamming the door behind me. Tom wasn't there. His chair sat empty, still spinning slightly like he'd left in a hurry. On the desk sat a guest ledger. I flipped through it. Every name was crossed out, all except one. Room 8, guest, Mira Lane. There was no check-in date, no checkout. The name rang a distant bell in my memory, but I couldn't place it. I tore a scrap of receipt paper and scribbled it down. As I did, the lights in the office flickered. Outside, something moved past the window. A shadow, tall, jerky, like it didn't know how legs should work. I crouched low behind the counter, holding my breath. A knock came at the glass. Slow. 1 tap. 2. 3. I refused to look. It tapped once more. Then silence. When I peeked out again, the shadow was gone. At 3:25 a.m., I returned to the janitor's closet to grab my things. I was done. Screw finishing by 3:33. I'd find another job. I didn't care if this place paid triple. But as I reached for my backpack, I noticed something. The zipper was undone. Inside, a note. Not one I had written. It was folded in perfect thirds, creased like it had been read 100 times. Written in neat, looping cursive. You're not the first, Ethan. You won't be the last. Room 8 doesn't sleep. It remembers. Below that, in red ink, do not answer again. I drove home that morning with shaking hands, the rising sun doing little to warm the chill in my bones. I didn't sleep. I just sat at my kitchen table, staring at the name I'd scribbled. Mira Lane. I searched it online. One result stood out. A news article from 6 years ago. Missing girl last seen at Seaside Motel. She'd vanished without a trace. Her last known location? Room 8. Her face stared back at me from the screen. Pale, dark eyes, hair tied in a messy braid. She couldn't have been more than 20. The article said something strange. The only witness, a night janitor, disappeared 2 days later. The morning after that first shift, I sat frozen at my dining table. The article about Mira Lane still glared from my laptop screen, her face haunting in its stillness. Missing, vanished from room 8. A janitor disappeared days later. That same job, that same room. I wasn't superstitious. Not until now. My mind wrestled with logic. Maybe someone was playing a cruel prank. Maybe it was a coincidence. But the voice, the shadow, the name I never spoke aloud, that couldn't be explained. Still, I returned that night. You think I wouldn't, right? Any sane person would have walked away. But that's the thing. I wasn't just scared. I was hooked. Room 8 had whispered my name, and somewhere deep inside, I needed to know why. When I arrived at the motel, just before 9 p.m., Tom wasn't outside like last time. The office lights were off. The place looked deserted. I stood at the front door a while before letting myself in. The old bell above the door gave a weak jingle. The air inside was still and sour, like water left sitting too long in a plastic bucket. His coffee cup was still on the counter, the same one from yesterday, rimmed with old grounds. I called out. Nothing. I checked the ledger. A fresh line of names had been added, new guests. Real ones, it seemed. But room 8 remained unchanged. Still listed under Mirror Lane. Still no checkout date. I opened the closet to get my cleaning supplies and froze. On the wall, where there had been a supply chart yesterday, someone had written something new in charcoal. She's hungry now. Just those 3 words. No signature. No other markings. I didn't want to believe it had anything to do with Mira, but something in my gut said otherwise. That night's tasks blurred into background noise. I cleaned the pool deck, while keeping my eyes from all reflective surfaces. Every window, every shiny door handle. I didn't want to see what was staring back. Room 3 did call out again. A man's voice this time. Calm, polite. Asking for more towels. I walked faster. Never stopped. Never answered. Room 5 had its usual leak, but this time there was something more. A faint sound coming from above. Not dripping. Breathing. Something slow and deliberate, pacing in rhythm with the sound of water hitting tile. I didn't look up. I never looked up. Around 1:40 a.m., the wind outside picked up. Fierce gusts shook the windows and rattled the office door. Rain hadn't started yet, but the air smelled of it. Sharp, electric. Storm coming. I stepped out into the back walkway, taking the long route to avoid the laundry room. The hallway leading to room 8 was darker than the rest. 3 bulbs had gone out in a perfect row. No flickering. Just blackened glass and silence. I paused. From somewhere behind the door of room 8, I heard the sound of something being dragged across the floor. Slowly, in circles. Then came the humming. A tune I didn't recognize, but it stuck to my brain like wet seaweed. Sweet and slow. A woman's voice. Childlike. Detached. I tried to back away, but something held me still. Not physically, psychologically. That same feeling you get on the edge of a cliff, staring into the drop, the part of your mind that wants to see how far it goes down. The humming stopped. Then the voice whispered again. Ethan. But this time, it didn't come from behind the door. It came from behind me. I spun, heart in my throat. Nothing. The hallway was empty, but the air behind me was warm, like someone had just exhaled against my neck. Back in the office, I slammed the door and locked it. I sat under the desk, my knees pulled tight to my chest. I shouldn't have come back. The office phone rang. I stared at it. 3 rings. 4. It kept going. Finally, I picked it up. A wet, crackling silence. Then a woman's voice, soft, trembling, but clear. I'm still here. My throat tightened. Mira. The line clicked. Dead. I couldn't stop myself. I looked her up again. Not the article this time. I searched deeper. Old social media posts. Yearbook photos. A personal blog long since abandoned. She had stayed in room 8 while traveling up the coast during her gap year. Her last post was strange. Poetic. It read, "There's something about the ocean at night. The way it speaks to you. if you really listen. The tide has secrets. The waves remember things we forget. The comments stopped after that. At 3:10 a.m., just before I was supposed to finish my shift, I heard something slam. I jumped up. It wasn't thunder. I looked at the monitors, grainy security cameras feeding black and white views of the halls. Roommate's door was open, wide open. The hallway camera glitched. Static. Then it came back, but the door was still ajar. A figure stood just inside the threshold. Long dark hair, bare feet, a white dress that swayed, though the air was still. She didn't move. She just stared at the hallway, unmoving. I leaned closer to the monitor. She blinked, and I swear she looked straight at the camera, at me. I hit the rewind to check the footage. Playback from just 5 minutes earlier. Roommate was closed, locked, untouched. When I returned to the live feed, the door was shut again. No one in sight. 3:32 a.m., 1 minute before the shift's end. A fax machine in the corner of the office groaned to life. I didn't even know it was plugged in. A single sheet fed out. White paper, black ink. It was a grainy photocopy of a woman's face. Her eyes were blacked out. Underneath, in thick type, "Do not answer her again." I ran to my car the second the clock hit 3:33. As I peeled out of the lot, I glanced in the rearview mirror. Roommate's light was on, and the curtains parted just enough for a pale face to peek through, watching me go. I didn't sleep that morning. I lay on the couch, staring at the ceiling while waves whispered through the cracks in my apartment's old windows. The face behind room 8's curtain replayed again and again in my mind, watching, waiting. By 4 p.m., I made up my mind. I wasn't going back. The job wasn't worth it. Not the money, not the mystery, not the slow, creeping madness. I drafted a resignation text for Tom and stared at it for half an hour. Then I deleted it because I got a voicemail. Not from Tom, from Miralane. The recording was warped, crackling, like it had been left on a cassette tape buried in the sand. Her voice, soft, distant, echoed through the speaker. "Ethan, please, it's not just roommate anymore. She's waking others up. Don't let her leave the motel. Whatever you do, don't bring her name outside." My thumb hovered over delete. Instead, I saved it. When I returned to the Drift-Tide Motel that night, the sky was blacker than it should have been. Not just cloudy, choked. Like the stars had abandoned the coast altogether. Tom still wasn't around. That marked the third night in a row. No one at the desk. The place felt abandoned, yet the guest ledger had new entries. Rooms 4, 6, and 9 were occupied, but I never saw anyone come or go. By 9:30, I was on the second floor mopping near room 9 when I heard it. A soft creaking from below. I stepped to the railing and looked down at the parking lot. A car had arrived, dusty, headlights still on. A man stepped out. Average height, worn jacket, balding. He walked to the office like he'd been here before. I raced back downstairs to catch him. By the time I got there, he was already inside, leaning over the counter, talking to someone I couldn't see. "Got a room for the night?" he asked. A voice answered. Feminine. Not Tom. Not anyone I knew. Just a whisper. Sharp. Smooth. "Roommate." I froze. The man nodded. Didn't even flinch. She handed him a key. An actual, physical brass key I'd never seen before. The man thanked her and walked back out. I slammed through the door. The office was empty. No woman. No guest. Just a key on the counter. Labeled 8. Still warm to the touch. I chased the man down as he climbed the stairs to the second floor. "Hey," I called out. "You can't go in there." He turned slowly, blinking like he'd just awoken from a dream. "Sorry, you work here?" he asked. I nodded. "Roommate's closed. That key isn't real. You can't stay there." He glanced down at the brass in his hand, then back at me. His face changed. Blank. Emotionless. "She chose it," he muttered. "What?" "She chooses the ones who remember." I took a step back. "Who are you?" The man tilted his head. "She said you'd ask that." He smiled then, but only his mouth smiled, not his eyes. Then he turned, opened roommate's door, and stepped inside. It closed behind him with a click. I didn't see him again. Not the next hour. Not the rest of the night. I checked the hallway monitor every 10 minutes. Static bled over the feed from 2 to 2:20. When it cleared, roommate's door was shut, the light off. No sign of the man. At 3:05 a.m., I took the office phone and tried calling Tom. It rang once. Then his voicemail. "Mailbox is full." I went into the back office to find any contact info, anything personal. But instead, I found something I hadn't noticed before. A small drawer, locked, at the base of the filing cabinet. The lock was already broken, as if someone had pried it open recently. Inside were dozens of motel ID badges. All janitors, all with different names, all expired. I sifted through them, found one that looked like me. Short hair, tan complexion, same uniform. His name? Kyle Burns. He'd worked night shift 2 years ago. A sticky note was attached to his badge. "Kyle, do not iterate. She learns from every one of us." Below that, scribbled in a childlike hand, "She likes you, Ethan," smiley face. The phone rang again. 3 times. I didn't want to answer. I did anyway. Heavy breathing. Then a soft voice. "She has the man now." I swallow hard. What does she want? Out. The line died. At 3:33 a.m., the building shook. Not violently, just enough to feel it under my feet. The hallway lights flickered in sequence, left to right, then back. When they steadied, I looked at the monitors. Room 4's door creaked open, then room 6, then 9. Every door all at once. Open. Empty rooms. No guests. No luggage. Just wide open doors. Except for roommate. Still shut. Still waiting. I approached room 8 again, this time with a flashlight in hand, and every part of my brain screaming to turn back. But I couldn't leave it alone. Not after what I'd seen. Not after what I'd heard. The hallway was cold. Too cold. Every breath turned to mist. The carpet felt damp under my boots, like seawater had soaked into the floorboards. I stood in front of the door. The number had changed. It no longer said 8. Now it read, Ethan's room. And underneath that, in chalk, come see what you forgot. I stared at the door. Ethan's room. The number 8 was gone, rubbed away like chalk on wet slate. My name had replaced it, scratched in, burned in. I don't know how. I don't know why. But the motel, it did. I wasn't a guest here. I wasn't staff anymore. I was claimed. The knob was ice cold under my fingers. Every part of me screamed not to open it. But I did. Slowly. Quietly. The door swung inward. The room was wrong. At first glance, it looked like every other room in the drift tide. Faded walls, salt-stained curtains, a worn queen-size bed. But the air was dead. Stagnant. No breeze. No smell. No time. The window was sealed shut with rusted nails. And everything inside was mirrored. Not reversed. Duplicated. 2 beds. 2 chairs. 2 TVs. All facing each other. As if the room were split down a central line. And standing on the opposite side of that line was me. He looked up. Same face. Same uniform. But his eyes, they were wrong. Empty. Swallowed in black. No whites. No pupils. Just void. He smiled slowly. Been waiting. I stepped back. What is this? He stepped forward, mimicking me. I'm what you left behind. His voice was familiar, but not mine. It echoed too long, like shouting in a deep cave. You don't remember the first time, do you? What are you talking about? He tilted his head. You've always been here, Ethan. Every janitor who came before, they weren't others. They were you. The same soul. Recycled. Rewound. Replayed. No, that's why a roommate calls to you. Because she's inside you. Because you've let her out before. My knees buckled. I stumbled back against the wall. I kept talking. You worked this job in 1996. Your name was Paul. You scrubbed this carpet after a man hanged himself in room 5. You ignored the whispering then, too. No. In 2004, you were Cassie. You stayed 1 week. You saw her face in the mop bucket, drowning yourself. I gasped for air. In 2017, you were Kyle. You went inside roommate. You let her almost out. That's when the rules changed. That's when she started remembering you. He stepped closer. But you, this version, you're the one she likes the most. The lights flickered. The mirror room behind him rippled like water. From the twin bathroom, a figure emerged. Not walking, floating, toes dragging, hair long and soaked, stuck to her face like seaweed. Her eyes were gone, black holes, leaking salt water. Her mouth stretched wide and crooked, as if trying to smile through a scream. She wore a white motel robe. On the pocket, embroidered in faded blue thread, Mira. She spoke without opening her mouth. You remembered me. I bolted, shoved the door open, and ran into the hallway. I didn't stop until I hit the stairwell, my boots slamming each step on the way down. The lights pulsed above me like a heartbeat. As I reached the lobby, the front door slammed shut on its own. All power cut out. The air turned heavy, like the motel was suddenly underwater. I reached for the office door, but it was gone. Just a blank wall where it used to be. The reception desk melted into the floor, wood turning soft like skin. The mounted swordfish twisted slowly in place, its glass eye blinking wetly. I was trapped. I turned and ran down the hall. Every door was open. Every room empty. No beds. No guests. Just peeling walls and dark water stains that ran upward instead of down. Room 5 flooded. Seaweed drifted in the air like smoke. Room 3, mirrors shattered inward. No reflection. Room 6, filled with sand. An ocean breeze blew from inside it, though no windows were open. I kept moving, feet soaked, lungs burning. Somewhere behind me, I heard footsteps, bare, wet, and humming. I found Tom in room 2, or what was left of him. He sat in a chair, eyes open, unmoving. Salt crusted the corners of his lips. His skin was pale and warped, like it had been soaked too long in brine. In his lap, a note. I stayed too long. I followed the rules. It didn't matter. She wrote new ones. On the wall behind him, words had been scrawled in blood. There is no checkout. 3:31 a.m. 2 minutes left. I ran to the utility closet and grabbed the guest ledger from behind the cleaning supplies. Flipping through page after page, every entry was the same. Room 8, Mira Lane. No checkout, until I found mine. Room 8, Ethan Blake. Dated 3 days ago. I wasn't working here. I never had been. I was a guest. I had checked in. I never left. 3:33 a.m. The wind howled through the motel. The floors shook. Somewhere nearby, the sound of the sea crashing through the walls echoed into the halls. A wave of cold swept over me. Then came the final knock. Knock, knock, knock. I turned. Roommate. Back to its original number. Still closed. Still waiting. The voice came again. Checkout time. The knock echoed down the hall like thunder underwater. Room 8 stood at the far end of the corridor. Closed now. Pristine again, as if everything I'd seen had been some fever dream. But my name was still on the ledger. My reflection still blinked after I did. And the voice, her voice, was still whispering in the walls. Checkout time, Ethan. I should have run. Out the front door, through the parking lot, back into the real world, if it still existed. But deep inside, I knew there was no real world for me anymore. Not after this. Not after her. The motel didn't let people go. Not unless it wanted to. And right now, it didn't. I walked the hall slowly, my soaked boots slapping the warped carpet with every step. The air grew warmer the closer I got to room 8. Thick, humid, breathing. The ceiling lights buzzed and dimmed like they were suffocating. The ocean outside roared louder, as though it were climbing the dunes, scraping at the windows, screaming to be let in. When I reached the door, it opened on its own. Just a crack, enough to let her voice seep through. Come remember. Inside was not the same room from before. Gone were the mirrored beds and twin furniture. This time, room 8 was flooded. Ankle-deep water covered the floor, shimmering under a light that didn't seem to come from any bulb. The walls pulsed like lungs. The ceiling was a dark, infinite sky with stars that blinked like eyes. Floating in the center of the room was her, Miralaine, or what was left of her, hair drifting like seaweed, her skin pale but unbroken, beautiful in a way that terrified me, mouth stitched with salt, eyes empty but watching. She turned to me slowly. Her lips didn't move, but I heard her in my head. You brought me here. No, I whispered, voice cracking. You've always brought me here. Again, and again, and again. I shook my head. I don't remember. That's the point. She reached for me, arm extending far too long, fingers cold as brine, touching my chest. Let me show you. In that instant, time fractured. I wasn't in room 8 anymore. I was in a dozen versions of it. All at once. I was Paul in 96, watching her drown in the bathtub, too paralyzed to move. I was Cassie in 2004, whispering to her through the mirror until I forgot who was real. I was Kyle in 2017, unlocking the door with bloodied keys, begging her to forgive me. In every version, I let her in. I invited her out. I broke the rules, because I wrote them. Suddenly, I was back in the present, in the water-filled room. She was still holding me, both physically and in memory. I staggered back, coughing, gasping. My skin felt too tight, my mind stretched thin. I'm not him anymore, I said. I'm not them. I'm not you. She tilted her head. But you are. The water rose quickly now, up to my knees, then my waist, then chest. I turned, tried to escape, but the door was gone. The room spun in slow circles. The stars above blinked like dying lanterns. From the walls, faces began to appear, dozens of them. All the previous janitors, all the guests who vanished. Some I recognized, most I didn't. All of them stared, mouths moving in silent horror. Trapped. You brought me here, she whispered again. Now I bring you. Then, just as the water hit my chin, there was a sudden silence. A light. A buzz. I opened my eyes. Daylight poured through my apartment window. My couch. My floor. My clothes dry. My phone buzzed on the counter. 4:17 p.m. Was it a dream? A hallucination? I staggered to the bathroom, splashed water on my face. Then I noticed something in the mirror. Not my reflection. Hers. Just for a blink. Watching from behind my eyes. My phone buzzed again. A new voicemail. I played it. Tom's voice. Ethan, hey. You never showed for your first shift. Just wanted to check. Do you still want the night janitor job at Driftide? Room 8 needs some cleaning. Call me back. The message was dated 5 days ago. Before any of this happened. Before I ever set foot in the motel. I looked back at the mirror. She smiled this time. The end.